Hey guys, yeah, this was an interesting chat with All in Crypto, a good YouTube channel worthy of a follow, and also now a community member. In one instance, he mentioned CME gaps, and I go off on a bit of a rant. The key element with this is, and I'd like many people to listen to this, and I'm shocked by the number of influencers and supposed traders that buy into the entire fake narrative of CME gaps. From when the Chicago Mercantile Exchange established a Bitcoin futures contract and virtually no or very, very low volume was being traded, we had the narrative of gaps on the CME being portrayed. Meanwhile, in Bitfinex, FTX at the time, and Binance, the largest exchange, the bulk of the volume of Bitcoin was taking place. Here is a short rant as to why you should not be focusing on the fake narrative of CME gaps. You've made him follow you. He's dead and you're dragging him behind you. That's moving averages. One of my pet peeves. My second P for crypto guys, and Brunt and many others that are big follower guys, repeated infinitum, CME gaps. Let me explain CME. They are open Monday to Friday. They started long after Bitcoin had already existed for a number of years and was trading every single day, including weekends. Bitcoin, when you have a CME gap, actually didn't gap. It was trading all along on exchanges during that period.
Okay.
You shut your business down for 2 days and decided, oh, you were there, now you're here. A gap is when there is no opportunity to trade, news events has occurred, and the market next opens, and you get a substantial zero volume at that price range that you've gapped to. So you closed at 20,000 Bitcoin, you opened at 28,000 Bitcoin, boom, like that, you had an 8,500 gap. That is a gap. On a normal exchange, that's open all the time, like a Bitfinex, a Binance, or whatever you want, or a DEX that's open all time. Everybody just suddenly somebody said something and nobody wanted to sell their Bitcoin. And the first time someone sold their Bitcoin was for 8 grand more. That is a gap, a legit gap. Somebody who is selling hot dogs and decides not to work for 2 days and then realizes he can charge more for his hot dogs when there were other hot dog stands open alongside him that were trading and slowly increased their prices. I can't quit a business for 6 months and come back and say there's a gap. You chose not to be open for business and other venues were, and it traded. So there was real volume that traded in the gap. So if you have a Friday close at 28,000 and you have a Monday open of 28,400, you didn't get a 400 gap. The idiot exchange shut and the activity continued, and they picked up on the activity later because they chose to take a holiday.
Yeah,
because it actually traded 2,801 on Bitfinex, 2,803, 4, 5, 6, Binance, Bitfinex, Co-op, DEX, Uniswap, all of them, and traded. So it traded, it didn't jump. The insinuation of a gap is sudden movement with zero volume from one price point to another price point where you long jumped. You didn't walk. There were no footprints in the sand. There's no footprints on the CME because they chose to shut down on something that trades 7 days. That means they weren't open for business. Bitcoin was open for business and Bitcoin was trading, and it traded, and it had footprints in the sand between 28,000 and 28,400 and closing a gap that didn't exist because you want to use an exchange that wants to go to sleep is a fucking stupidity.
Yeah.
And I just have to put this
bullshit
to death
because it makes total sense.
Many misnomers and garbage that is being sprouted, and people with supposedly high credibility and all of that, and I'm trading the gap. The day and let me also say, the day the exchanges, the Chicago exchanges, represent the primary volume and the primary activity of the bulk of the players in Bitcoin, you can start talking about a dominant exchange. I still don't think you can talk about a gap if somewhere else it was able to change all the way through. It doesn't meet even the technical definition of a gap. So every That gap trading strategy is a nonsense. Change the number of days in the week and work 6 days and have 3 days off, and you're going to get different data for gaps.
Yep.
Change it from 4 days and 1 day off, you have different data. Change the number of fingers on your hand and you're going to get different garbage data, all of it garbage and meaningless. It is an absolute misnomer and foolhardiness. Bitcoin traded, Bitcoin was open for business. The Chicago pit traders and now the screen jockeys pissed off home to throw frisbee with their kids. Got nothing to do with Bitcoin. It traded.
Yeah, I think that's fascinating. I've never actually even thought to look at it like that. You know, it's null and void, really, that gap, because there was no gap. You know, I've never actually thought about it like that. I often have looked at gaps that take place in the stock market, and they do quite often get filled. But it's more the intent behind why that gap's taking
gaps
place.
In stock markets, there were no other places you could trade that equity. Time was allowed to elapse, and there was no volume of any kind that is accepted that occurred from the Friday close or the overnight gap. It can even be a Monday through to a Tuesday morning gap, and is usually followed as a result of news events specific to that stock or highly bullish fundamental macro events to markets as a whole. And those are the technical gaps that pit traders that used to discuss this, commodity traders and all of these people, including people like Brunt, who said he's a commodity trader for all those years, but still talks about Bitcoin gaps. The Chicago, the contract they have there is not even the primary tool. It's not even the primary volume for Bitcoin. So why is anyone even caring? It truly is. It's truly like you all sell hot dogs, but Francis Hunt has his own hot dog stand and he only likes to work Mondays. And he just changed the price and he said that the price for hot dogs have gapped because I'm keeping the price and I'm making a chart called the Francis Hunt Hot Dog Index. I can't do that. Why would anyone pay any attention and say, well, the moved? You weren't available. The markets for hot dogs been, trading all this time.
It makes a lot of sense.
They're an irrelevance. When they become scale, when they use disproportionate leverage and the bulk goes through there and retail is absolutely nothing and there's lots of institutional engagement, you can start to say there's at least a lead steer and a bull. But you still can't say there's been a technical gap if during the weekend, other people who chose to be open and were functioning saw real pricing be affected that covered that point. You did not long jump. You did not fly in the air and not cover with zero volume all those price ranges. It traded. You chose not to take that data from other places where it traded into account and you ignored legitimate trade. End of story, not a gap.